Cool. Thank you very much, sir. So welcome to this week. We've got a few bits on the agenda. So we've got reviewing the actions from last week, reviewing outstanding PRs. I've got an update on CF deployment from the governing board meeting. Then there's update on charters for working groups and any other business. So if we get started with the actions from last week, they're all pretty straightforward ones, really. It's Amelia's set in there that aren't going to be merged just yet because there's another PR to review and consider first, which is around the RFC process. So I will pull up the chat window to start posting things in here. So we've got the GitHub's teams and access, first of all, which Eric has requested some changes on, but I have spotted that Amelia is currently out of office until the 29th, so there's probably not going to be any movement on that one until then. PR workflow is a little bit more kind of interesting, which I will just put the link in there, 171. So this one, in my opinion, kind of just wants a bit of a decision to be made by the working group on the agreement to then present back to us, because it seems like there's a little bit of conflict going on within the comments within that PR. So at the moment, I don't think we can do a huge amount with it. So everyone in agreement on that one?
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to do without like these things being resolved and brought back.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And there's the project roadmap, which I will just grab that one. We've got so with this one, there's been some approvals in here. Yeah, and Terraform. What was your thinking there?
Oh, it's like I just like it looks quite complicated that like those things get managed while GitHub is working on a new projects thing that will probably lead to some of these things solved. On the other hand, it's like it's going to be working groups doing that, and they are just doing that if they want. Like even the proposal just says this is a possible solution. You don't need to use that, and I'm fine with that. I mean, the principal thing to have a project dashboard showing these things and the state of those, I fully agree with. So it was about the technical details, which are optional. So I'm fine with that. Which is why I actually approved while still commenting on that. So.
Okay. Cool. So, yeah. I mean, this is one that has technically been open for a while. It's got 3 board approvers, so I think that's all good. And I'll put a comment on there that we're happy for it to go forwards once we've got the process defined of how it's going to sit in the repo, because it's probably going to be a bit of a shuffle, but that's okay. I can do that as an action. And the final one is the Stalebot, which I will just put there. So this one's had an awful lot of comment on it, but then no further action for a week on there.
Yeah, we had a discussion in the Foundational Infrastructure Working Group meeting, and I didn't post the results back, I see. But we had a discussion about like the about how to deal with issues, because PRs and issues are a bit different. So we defined some states that we think are useful for issues, or a workflow around issues.
Okay.
We'll post that during this call. But nothing, yeah, I mean, we still have to wait for feedback from the rest of the community on that. So.
Okay. Cool. myself. Okay. So then in terms of the outstanding PRs that we've got, there's the adjust haproxy-boshrelease link, which doesn't look hugely controversial to me. It's just removing the incubator. So I think that one should be absolutely fine. Yes, it does exist, and that's all good. So I'm happy to approve on that one. So that one's all okay. And then too many tabs.
I did approve as well. So technically we would have 3 approvals.
We would. We're supposed to
And
leave it open for a week. Yeah, okay. Let's click the button.
It was like the initial thing seems to be 13 days old already.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, click the button. I think we're good on that one. Okay, so then we've got remove syslog-release from ARP responsibilities, which is there as 169. So there's been a couple of us that have approved that one, but we don't have enough numbers yet. And that's just removing a repo because we've got it in 2 working groups simultaneously.
I'll just approve it. It's like this is something like I can't really tell much about it if it's correct, but seeing the approvals of you and Stefan is enough for me.
Cool.
Yeah, I go the same way. If the working groups agree, I mean, there's little.
Yeah,
I mean, at least in this initial state, right? It's like figuring out where they belong. If later something should be moved from one to another, I still don't see many reasons for not to agree with that from a TOC perspective, but there could be. But this is right now sorting out that there was something wrong.
Yes, and of course, it is easy to always undo these changes. Okay, so the next one we've got is the RFC process, which I see that we've got some discussion starting on this one.
I added one comment, which is for me it was not really clear. This RFC process I understood is for global, so cross-cutting concerns across work groups and processes on the TOC level. We should mention that somewhere because there is in this other proposal that I referred here, they also mention work group internal large technical proposals and feature RFCs, and then you don't know where to search for such an RFC, and at least they should cross-link and mention each other.
Okay, yeah, I'm quite happy to go with that. To give you the background, if you missed it, I basically stole this from AlphaGov, where they run it on gov.uk and then just did some minimal tweaking for our process. So it is all open and agile. So yeah, that's cool. That's no problem at all to get that one in. And Jan, your thoughts on this one?
The first one, I just made a concrete proposal. Maybe it's really just the order, like it's making a proposal, discussing it in that open PR. That's maybe where I got it wrong.
Yeah, so that was the intent.
The other is I would try not to actually derail these discussions to Slack, but instead try to keep them in GitHub. Like if you make a part of the process to mention this in Slack, then a discussion will start over there. While we could instead just mention the TOC or add a TOC label or find some other means of notifying us to pick this up. Yeah, that's basically my comment there.
Yep.
And then like the managing processes and managing standards things seem to be duplicate. Like both are about how you should handle merged RFCs in terms of what are you allowed to change and what not, or what would require a new RFC.
Yeah, Yeah, they are pretty duplicate at the moment in there. It was mainly having them that way to see if it eked out any discussion about should processes be handled differently or not. If we don't think so, then there's no sense in duplicating unnecessary characters.
It's like in terms of like that things shouldn't be substantially altered. There's probably no difference in terms of processes and standards. There might be differences between those RFCs or whatever other things, but I don't think so. And then last but not least, I think we should have a metadata section similarly to, for example, build packs have, which would include things like actually supersedes something which is mentioned in the RFC proposal and could have things like authors and state and like all kinds of things.
Yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense. So that's no problem. I can make those changes over the next week. So I will get those sorted. Then we've got add some more Diego runtime to working group, which we've got some changes requested very recently. So they're not likely to have happened yet, I would imagine, on there.
So the first one is, I think we should discuss it because there's a repository that is most likely a private repo, and I think we should not have private repos in as working group assets.
Yeah.
And the second point is this Grace repository. Sure, you can have examples and test applications, right? But if I look at this repo, I would say it needs some love before it gets added.
Yeah, I mean, I would completely agree with both of those.
I mean, you can have valid use cases for maybe some config or some CI infrastructure config repos. I think we have logs or something like shared environment, or we have pools of environments that are in a held in a repository. So I think there are valid use cases for private repositories.
No, it's just, do we put them in the charter or not, right? Are they part of the definition of the working group? Are they secret? I think the disadvantage of them being secret is we might not remember who they belong to.
Yes.
Like, how are we going to keep track of them? Maybe we use labels or something as well.
Also, if we are going to use these lists to drive automation, I would like that list to be complete.
Yeah. I've kind of got two minds on this one. On the one hand, it's excellent to have that canonical resource of everything that forms part of a working group. On the other hand, I'm not a member of the working group. I'm a community member, and I'm going to have a look and see what it is. And I can't see this thing. What is it? I don't know.
If we need it, we would need to mark it private. By the way, out of curiosity, I think like who did remove admin permissions from TOC members? Like probably that was for a reason and a good one, but I think we had them in the org. So I was wondering why we wouldn't see a private repository.
I don't think so. I was never able to access something in the Cloud Foundry org. I was in Cloud Foundry Incubator, but that has history.
Get Stefan his admin permission back because I can see all the repos.
Yeah, I can't see that one.
But then I would have noticed, right?
Yes.
Actually, I looked inside. I probably would have overseen the private flag somewhere. But there might be use cases for private repos. On the other hand, if I remember SAP internal discussions, I'm not sure whether Git repositories are then the right means to store secrets and things like that. Sounds like.
I'm sure they are not, but And I think it wouldn't be needed, right? I mean, there's like the cloud providers have secure storages, and I think Concourse has integration for at least the AWS one, because I know that we for sure used it with a Concourse, so there shouldn't be a reason for having private repos for this kind of thing, which doesn't mean everything has to be changed in an instant. Like if it is currently solved that way.
Yeah, it's more of like, do we want to make it a blocker, right?
Yeah.
It's just like a given. Currently, there are some private repos and they are being used by things. So, and they belong to a certain working group. So, I don't know.
In which case, do we go with an explanatory note alongside them?
Yeah, or a section for private, repositories at the bottom. That's just like, here's a bunch of stuff that we don't want to forget that we own, but like you shouldn't be able to see probably.
Yeah, I'd vote for that separate section as well instead of annotating every single thing. It's far easier to spot, and it's at the bottom where, like, I mean, it's not of interest for most of the people anyway.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, fine with me.
We do have, can't we use labels to solve? I know I've like totally got a solution for all of this. And I'm like, what if we use labels? But can't you put labels on repos and then like query for all of the repositories in a certain working group sort of that way, more dynamically, in which case then you'd only be able to see the ones that we're able to see. You get a filter down view automatically. Just throwing it out there. Different technology solution. I don't actually know if labels are a thing.
Oh, you mean to shrink down the assets to a query URL, so to say, that would lead
right?
you to the
exactly.
sorted
Yeah,
list.
dynamic. Exactly. A dynamic, like, you don't have, I mean, we already did all of this where we put all of the values in there, and like you still need to know what's in the working group initially anyway to apply the labels. But we could now actually convert this solution, now that we know what goes where, into labels. If I'm right and labels exist, I'm trying to figure out how to make you all admins real fast from the TOC of the org, and then I'm going to figure out how to do the next thing. But
one thing you would lose with that is the auditability, right? You don't have the PR model anymore to make changes to the definition.
Yeah, totally.
So everybody who is admin can just start adding, or actually everybody who has certain access to a repo can just change labels and then move it to a dot. That's actually quite useful. You can just, if there's a repo you are not interested anymore, you can just like move it to another working group and they won't notice, but they will be responsible. I'm in favor of this idea. That's perfect. I see possibilities. I have some candidates.
Yeah, I don't like that anymore. Big God, it's yours now. I'm not sure that the TIG model necessarily works particularly well.
Sorry, I shouldn't have unmuted myself. I wanted to talk to a child that was doing something, and then I unmuted myself. So no, sorry.
No worries at all. Okay, cool. So the only other one that we have at the moment is an update on approvers for disaster recovery, which I'll just post in here. So this looks to be a pretty non-controversial one, as adding some approvers in here. As it's VMware, I was going to suggest maybe David just takes the lead on yaying or naying on that one.
Yeah, my headset like garbled for a second. I'm opening the PR.
Yeah. It's adding the VMware cryogenesis team.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. Those three folks. Yeah, those three folks are developing a process to kind of like repeatedly keep things up to date and watch them and handle incoming GitHub issues and such for repos that really don't have much going on anymore. So that does exactly sound like the right people. I'll click review, changes and approve, and then you all can decide or whatever. Lee, if you want to click merge, feel free to.
I mean, I'm happy to take your lead on this one.
Okay, I'm going to push merge. It's done.
Okay, cool. So that is those for the moment. Okay, so that then takes us to an update on CF deployment from the governing board meeting, which is kind of an interesting one. So the governing board went with the view that, yes, that's a pretty important thing to keep going. So the current state on it is that they're looking at funding people to actually work on this at the moment, because it really does need that ownership. They did ask the question about, could the community do that? But I didn't really think so. To lead it, certainly it needs to be somebody's actual role and responsibility to do. So that's my view, and they have agreed with that at the moment. The next meeting we've got is on the 15th, and there should be an update from that that I can then relay to the board. So, yay, hopefully that's all good. Anyone got any questions on that one?
I think we have one or two people that are at least contributors on
Yes.
it, plan to be on it, but we don't have like a lead picked out. I think VMware could step up and lead this, but what it looks like if we lead it is it's a development and dev and test only reference deployment for playing around with. And I don't think that's very much in alignment with how it's actually being used by the community, but is in line with how we use it. So if you want us to drive it, we'll drive it, but we might drive it in a direction that existing users are not happy with.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, it's one of those things whereby if you don't have that and the Kubernetes side isn't ready yet, there is no actual blessed way of deploying Cloud Foundry, which is a bit of a problem. So we do need to keep that maintained. Okay. So I will update you on after the 15th on what is being decided there. In terms of update on charters for working groups, there's vulnerability management, which David, I know that you raised a comment on there about Paul wanting to change his role within that. I've tagged him back to see if he's happy to merge it in the interim whilst looking for someone else, and we'll wait to see what the response is on that one. And I imagine that there's been no movement on the community experience working group, as that was Eric, and Eric is currently around the corner from Jan. So, so I imagine there's not been a lot gone on there. So I'll just double check. Did he ping any notes over, David, in between? Because I can't see any activity on the PR.
No.
Nope.
I should have.
Just that one.
Yeah. Thank you. I was just trying to open it, and then I was like, wait a minute. Let's see. I mean, okay, so I mean, this is Eric is the one trying to drive this, right?
Yes. I just didn't know if he'd passed any
Yeah.
messages your way.
I see. Yeah. You think that we were like successfully functioning and he's gonna like send me a thing and I'm gonna keep doing it. No. I'm not gonna do that. I don't think it's so important right now that we have to, like, I think it's okay to have it drag on for a bit. I'm hoping we close it out by the end of the year. But I don't think it matters a huge amount. Eric was working. Let's see. Okay, wait, what is community? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. I don't think this, well, I don't know. I don't think I'm positioned to pick it up and drive it forward. I don't think Eric's made any significant progress on this stuff. So if somebody wants to just take it, they could take it. I'm not going to take it because I've like got 12 things I'm trying to get done in the next couple of weeks. And it's Thanksgiving over here. No.
Yes, of course, that is coming up, isn't it? Okay. So that kind of takes us to where we are on the charters and working groups, which moves us over to any other business. Has anyone got anything to add?
I owe the group a conversion of the jammy jellyfish proposal and of the CI budgeting proposal of conquest for working group and various parameters and so on. I think, Chris, you and I should collaborate on a budget for a proposed budget for how we spend the CI resources that we kind of have. Like, there's like a fair number of, we don't have a lot compared to what VMware spends on it. I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, we have like very little comparatively, but it's way more than we used to have. So like, if we just start doing what we used to do, it's going to be a total disaster. We're going to run out of money immediately. So we have to like be much more careful about how we spend the money. But like in theory, that budget could go a long way. So
Sure.
it would be fun to like try to make an actual proposal. I think, and we're also doing it piecemeal, right? A few teams are moving to like community-owned concourses. And,
Yeah,
and
we've got one, well, two set up now.
they're all being really careful about cost. And yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So
We can set something up early next week, or if you want
Great.
to.
I should be able to do it next week. That sounds like a lot of fun. So at least start a budgeting proposal.
Cool.
Okay, cool. I'll put that down as an action then. Has anyone got anything else?
I don't know if I said that last week already, but I got the GitHub project beta stuff working, or created some automation. Did I already tell that or not? No, maybe it was just in the working group. Maybe it was just in the working group. Let me share my screen quickly. So this is what the new GitHub project beta board looks like. And the nice thing here is that you can have like one for the whole foundational infrastructure, and you can have like a whole list, and then kind of different views with different filtering. So it's all integrated. So all the areas are now different tabs. And I also want to add the issues in here and have a workflow for that. And this all works. So they, in the documentation, they say to drive this with GitHub Actions. So use GitHub Actions to actually just add things here with GraphSQL. So you add them through the API to the list, or you can do it manually. But in this case, I took a definition file where I have like a bunch of repos, and then I would just query all those repos for new open issues and then add them to the list. And then they show up. And you can also have custom fields. So all these columns, you can add your own columns. So what I've, for example, done is have added the submitter, which was not there. So I can filter out CI things, or draft, for example, was not available, but you can forward that. And last activity, for example, I've done here. And that's all gonna use that for when we have issues. For example, I want to be able to track things per state and then see, oh, this has been open for too long. Yeah, it's all a work in progress, but
cool.
I kind of like this, the fact that it's all in one board.
Looks right? So cool. So cool.
Nice.
And they have some small automation things and are working on more anyway, right? That wouldn't necessarily be
So one thing,
your own actions. So
there's workflows. So workflows allow you to, for example, when it has been reviewed, it moves to it. You can map that to a state. So it updates the state. So it basically moves to a different column. So your Kanban board stays up to date, basically based on different things. So it's ready to merge, right? So it moves to the ready to merge column.
Yeah,
which is kind of nice. But you still need to add it to the inbox manually. But that's done by the automation, right? So they
have this. They have this on their list, I think, on the roadmap to provide that, to automatically add those to projects.
Yeah. So but it's not there yet. So
Yeah.
But it works through the API. So built a small Go program to sync it.
Cool.
Also, there's a task force to do a Gemmy spike between the SAP folks and some of the VMware people. That has been, so it's based on they're basing like off Impish. So because like Impish is supposed to be quite similar to Gemmy. So they're targeting Impish now to at least get a feel of if there's like really big blockers or things that we might want to start working on already. So far, they have not found really big issues, and they got a stem cell working, and they are able to do a Bosh create env, have a running director, and because it was going faster than they expected, we're now also doing a CF deployment this week just to spike out, see if we can have a CF deployment going on Impish. And what we found there so far, there's just, so they had some trouble with compiling Monit, the old Monit, because they went to a new version of GCC, but someone on the team found that there was a flag that we could add. With that flag, it just works. And that was actually the result of the cross-team collaboration, because there was just someone, like people had already given up, and then there would come someone came along and knew about that flag. So that was good. And that's what I also found in CF deployment. So a few packages like haproxy also need that GCC flag. So those are not like big things. That's just small PRs to fix those upstream releases. But we haven't run an app, so we don't know about Garden and those types of things. But I mean, it looks promising.
Okay.
Well, that's great. I was worried we were going to have to fight out the AGPL thing with Monit's license changing, and you know, Cloud Foundry is an enterprise software component. People don't like that AGPL, if at all possible. So I'm excited that that works. I'm disappointed that a lot of, maybe several pieces of software require change, like small compilation changes. But that's fine. I will find them all eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, I'm working on a proposal for BPM native, but I think we already talked about that, like agent directly to BPM, because that would be like at least maybe a nice feature to add, because then maybe in the next run we can get rid of Monit. But yeah, that's all.
Cool. Thank you very much for those updates. Has anyone got anything else to add for this week?
There was that thread on supply chain security in Slack that I gave a bunch of answers to. Feel free to, if anybody thinks I did a bad job there, feel free to add more opinions. I don't think we're doing like a ton yet for supply chain security, but like I think this is the beginning where we have proposal processes that and GitHub's standard flows and you know, eventually foundation owned build processes that could have a lot of this like supply chain security applied to it. If anybody wants to champion any of those proposals and bring them forward, I think it is relatively cheap to like change any of this when we're doing the bulk applying of like Git repo like settings, right? So if we want to like, as we're going to go essentially like, okay, so what's the proposal for, assuming we go ahead with the PR flow that Amelia is proposing, we need to go change a bunch of branch protection rules of every repo in Cloud Foundry. Is this something we're hoping to like use GraphQL to just like blow through all the repos and apply or something? Like what's the actual process we're going to use to roll out these like changes? Chris, are you good enough at Git repo automation to do stuff like that for us?
I've definitely written some scripts for the GitHub API, so I can, yeah, I'm sure we can figure that out. I haven't dealt with the branch endpoint really, but I'm sure it's not too complicated. So yeah, we could write a
Okay.
script. I haven't used GraphQL before, but
Yeah, I know you can
Yeah, we
make
can
changes
figure
through GraphQL as well
Yeah,
if
we
you
can
like,
figure
but
something
I haven't tried it yet. I just done some querying through it. Okay, so in theory, we're going to use something like that to like roll out a bunch of repository level changes. If we want tighter security settings, it should be relatively easy to do it in the initial flow. So if anybody wants to propose something, I don't have a concrete proposal myself yet. I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know. I don't really want to make signed commits a requirement for approvers or to like, I mean, I haven't wrapped my head around what of this security is really valuable and what isn't. But if somebody who has stronger opinions and knows more about it wants to throw together a proposal that doesn't impact people too much, let's do it.
It's one of those wonderfully difficult ones because you need to really go and threat model it and see exactly what your potential attack vectors are and what your gains are, and everyone's going to have a different view on that. Sign commits, in my opinion, don't actually really buy you anything, particularly if you're looking on the supply chain side, because there's all the dependencies you're pulling in anyway. So it just kind of moves the goalposts a little bit. I might see if I can get some time to pick somebody's brains over this one and see if I can get a little bit more useful information that we can maybe help drive things forward with. So hopefully they're available this week.
All right, well, I'm gonna have like our open source security expert go weigh in on what he thinks we should do. And then like he's gonna tell us to use salsa, SLSA, or whatever. And then we're gonna look at this and be like, do we want to do all of this? So like maybe there's some amount of like picking it apart and trying to decide if there's anything valuable in there.
Yeah,
Everybody cares about this.
Well, no, I guess the more eyes that look on it, the more opinions you get, and then it's a case of treading balances between them all.
Yeah, and you were gonna say something.
Nope. Okay, cool. Well, if no one's got anything else, then I guess we should probably wrap for this week then. So we've got a couple of actions for us. I've got 2 on there, and then Chris and David to meet to do the proposal conversions. And that's all. So enjoy and have a great week.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Have a good week.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Cheers out.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Indeed.